Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Oh, that's enough of that. But okay, so we have another Star Wars coming up.
Hey, everyone.
I'm Sean, and this is Brooks. And
Hey.
read some Star Wars letters columns from the very original Marvel Star Wars comic.
I'm not sure what issue are we up
into?
to? We did 7.
Yeah,
were there letters in issue 8?
I do believe this is from issue 8. Let's have a look. Yeah, this one is started on issue number 8.
The letters are starting to come in more regularly now.
Which makes sense. They didn't have one in every issue of the series, but once they got going, they did have quite a few. Yeah, here we go. Try to keep
Star Wars
material.
Special note. This issue, for a change, we're going to start with one of the very few almost totally unfavorable comments we've received to date on Star Wars 1 through 4. Perhaps the letter and its answer, detailing some of the difficulties inherent in adapting the movie Star Wars into comics form the way we did it, will be of interest. At least we hope so. Okay, so this guy is going to give them a hard time because the movie's different than the comic.
Oh my God, I see outlined. Like, does anybody else get any letters in, or just
already?
Good. No,
I can see the back of my brain because my eyes are rolling back so hard. You read this one. I don't have the patience.
This one's even more terse than the last guy. People, comma.
You're not dear to me.
Yeah. We'll save the affectations for people
who starts a letter with people. Who does that?
About a year ago, I stopped collecting comics because they were getting too expensive for my tastes. However,
oh my God, dude.
I came out of my hermitage. Yeah, this guy's head would explode in our age. I came out of my hermitage long enough to pick up issues 1 through 4 of Star Wars at a recent convention.
Okay, we already know a lot about this guy just from one sentence or 2 sentences.
Let's start profiling.
He doesn't want to spend a lot on his comics. He says he was in a hermitage, so he lives a hermit-like lifestyle. And he goes to comic conventions, which at that time was pretty early days for comic conventions, I think.
Yeah, not as mainstream as it is now.
So he's a big comic guy, but he didn't buy them because they got too expensive. So I guess he was into the older stuff.
Back in those days, conventions weren't expensive because, God, I don't go to conventions now because I can't afford those.
It's like, oh, I can go to a convention and pick up some comics, or I can just pick up some comics and have $100 left over.
And then take a trip to Europe.
Yeah, dude.
For the price of going to Dragon Con.
It's ridiculous.
We could go to a real place in the world.
It's like I could spend.
Hey, if you love Dragon Con, that's your bag. Don't let anybody take it away from you. But for my money, I'd go on a vacation somewhere else if I'm spending that kind of money.
Yeah, you're spending a fortune to stand in line for hours. I mean, that's all the conventions are to me now.
Some people, it's like we are getting older because some people, it's their great joy to go to conventions, you know.
Well,
I do enjoy them, but it's not my great joy to go to conventions.
I guess as a get together, it's fine, except for the cost. But if you actually try to see some of the stuff, it's just irritating to me. What I do love are the local comic conventions. It's like $5, and it's just a room full of dealers. That's all you need, and some artists, maybe some like local artists and stuff.
They did one in Jacksonville called the Cult Fiction Con, and we went up there for a day, and we saw Fred Williamson and Pam Grier was there.
Oh yeah, see that's
the cast
even
of
bigger.
Critters in their first ever reunion.
I was talking really low key like conventions where it's just like in a gymnasium or something. But
this was fun,
kind of cool.
But all of the panels were in one room. You could just sit in that room and see everybody in one day. And then they played Critters 2 on an inflatable theater screen outside that night. It was super fun. That to me, that is the stuff I love.
That's where it's at. That's what conventions should be. That's probably what the convention that he went to was, something like that.
Yeah, that's probably what they all were back at those times. They're big money now, and I don't want to take that from you. Like, if that's your thing and you enjoy that, then I don't want to take that from you. That's great. But I just don't have that level of enjoyment to pay that level of money.
I think it's a social thing. Like, people see their friends from across the country. They all come together and they hang out.
And I mean, I totally get that. Enjoyed if all of us went to we used to do that, like where we meet up at Dragon Con or something like that, and I still do enjoy that.
And you get to see all the cosplay and which is great in real life. It's neat to see pose with a pig for pictures, with the Predator or whatever. That's fun. I get that. It's so expensive. If it wasn't so expensive and so crowded, I think it'd be great. But anyway, that's just
especially you.
me
You've
in
got
my
kids. When your
hermitage.
kids got older, it'd
Yeah.
be fun to take them, and it might still be when they get old enough to take them, for a day or so to see. It's a fun thing for a kid to see.
I'm a hermit like this guy, though. So, okay,
Because
go ahead.
taking up, sorry to interrupt your umbrage, but getting back into it. Because of my devotion to the movie, I was utterly disgusted at the job you people have done on the comic end.
Disgusted, dude.
Disgusted. Like, that's something that artists like to hear about their work. First of all, Roy's adaptation is, to say the least, horrendous.
That's the least you can say.
Yeah, that's to say the least. I'm not saying the least because this goes on for a little bit longer. But if I were going to say the least, I'd have stopped there. Mic drop. He's added things that don't need to be added, giving the reading a fourth grade look. Why he can't spell Wookiee with one E right is beyond me.
Oh, so he thinks it should be one E.
Yeah, it's about to get fed to you now.
Let me tell you, first of all, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. I said, bitch.
Yeah, you just played yourself.
I looked this woman in the eye. I said, bitch.
That's the funny. This next line is cracking me up too. I don't mean to make fun, but I'm gonna a little here because this is like, I think fame has gone to the Thomas head, so that he thinks he can do whatever he wants just because he is who everybody claims he is, Roy Thomas Boy Wonder. I'm amazed you don't try to put that in a comic book.
Bitch, please.
Damn.
Let me say before I rip into Howie
Why are
Chaykin,
they printing this?
Well, first of all, because they have a reaction. That's A.
Yeah.
When you see all the numbered points, you think, man, somebody really had a detailed. No, that's their response. So we'll get to that. Let's see. Let me just say before I rip into Howie Chaykin that I really enjoyed the poster he did a year ago. But the artwork, and here's where he's going to win a little goodwill with me on this one. But the artwork in issue number 1 just left me cold. Most of it seemed as if it were just hacked out and not given the time he could have given it. No doubt it was the upper echelons that made him move his tush. If you get outraged, don't say tush. It made him move his tush.
He wanted to get it printed. This is before they came up with putting asterisks and stuff.
Well, you don't just choose your wording better. But that made him move his tush faster than he could move his pen. Luckily, Leialoha's inks, as well as his superior coloring methods. Oh, Marie. You should be baking cake for the peasants rather than doing a guillotine job on ish number 1.
Is he talking about Marie Antoinette?
I guess.
Like who is that in this instance? Is that?
Yeah, is that me?
Bitch, please.
Yeah, it's rather than doing. Yeah, I don't. She didn't do a guillotine job on. Marie Antoinette didn't make cake for anybody or use a guillotine on anybody.
She was on the other end.
Yeah, she was on the business end of both. Like, she was the receiver of both cake and guillotines, as history would have it. But whatever. Let's not get caught in the weeds. I saved the series somewhat. I haven't seen number 5 yet, although I know it's out. All I ask now is that when you go on with the series after Roy's mutant adaptations of the novel, please get a pro sci-fi man in to do the stories, or call in Don McGregor, who did such a beautiful job scripting the Killraven series, rather than have Star Wars turn into another superhero mag. God love them for themselves, though. And don't take it too hard, Roy. You can write all of Ben Grimm's dialogue forever.
Wow.
It's Don de Contreras.
Yeah, he's very contrary.
Don de Contrary of Garden Grove, California.
That is something.
To which their response is even longer.
Yeah, this is going to take a minute.
Yeah. Get in the right head space for this. Like,
SOP? SOP? For which SOP?
For which sop Roy
What does that
thanks
mean?
you muchly, Mr. D. I don't know.
But some slang, some 70s
I
slang.
guess, yeah, that's just what, pie hole. What is that?
Yeah,
But
that's
all,
thanks for your jive turkey response.
but all the same, he rather thinks he'll continue with Star Wars instead for a while, which is funny because he didn't. Like Roy left after the first storyline.
Well, because this letter, he was so disheartened.
Trying to answer your letter in somewhat
politer
terms. Yeah, I was like, what is it? Politer terms than it was phrased. We'll simply state that as far as we and most readers can tell, Roy, with or without Howie, added little or nothing that the original screenplay and paperback book adaptation thereof did not include. It's simply that several scenes were either not filmed at the last minute or else scrapped in favor of a more viable running time for the film. Thus, Luke's boyhood chum, Biggs Darklighter, disappeared almost entirely from the film, except as one of the fighter pilots in its climax, hardly even identified by name. Thus, also, the scene in which Luke Skywalker himself sees the boarding of Princess Leia's fleeing craft by Darth Vader's men, page 2 of issue number 1, also in the script and book, were included in the comics format, but not the finished movie. This type of thing is all but inevitable when, as Roy and Howie did, you adapt the film from merely a screenplay and a series of stills because the movie itself is not yet finished. This is why the aliens in the background of the already famous Cantina sequence are vastly different from those Howie drew. These were added in the last few weeks before the film opened, long after Howie had drawn the issue. Even the opening crawl of Copy, both the famed Long Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away line and the copy that followed were changed just prior to the movie's premiere. Yeah, it's funny. I should have mentioned before, like Brian De Palma was one of the people who helped recraft that after it was originally done. So that is funny. It was the pre-De Palma cut that you guys got when you did the adaptation. What you saw in our issue number 1 was what Roy, Steve Leialoha, and letterer Tom Orzechowski were privileged to see in a rough cut of the film screen to George Lucas's home. And he also had lunch with Luke Skywalker, so suck it.
Yeah. With our good friend Mark Hamill and George Lucas.
So maybe, some of the people we know a little bit about Star Wars. Hapless Howie never did get to see the movie till he'd laid out all 6 issues while Roy was scripting the second one before he even saw the rough cut. Now we get into the deeper cuts. All this is not so much by way of apology, since Roy and Howie don't feel they owe anybody one, as by way of explaining you. As by way of explaining certain discrepancies between the comic book and the movie. Given the Star Wars Corporation's stated desire to see at least 2 issues of a Star Wars comic mag on the stands before the movie opened, it was impossible to have done things much differently. And to answer your other comments briefly, number 1. As stated above, Roy will probably continue to write and edit Star Wars for a while. Killraven is dead and Chewbacca lives, so eat that. We'd like to keep it that way.
I don't know what Killraven is.
I think I've read some Killraven. Is he one of those guys in leather hip boots? There's a lot of sci-fi guys in leather hip boots back in those days.
I'm not familiar with it.
So let's see. Number 2, Howie wasn't so much rushed on issue number 1, though that probably entered the picture slightly, as trying out a particular style of artwork. Like I would like to break,
namely someone else's.
Yeah, and defend this dude just slightly in saying that it has been established since then that Howard Chaykin did phone it in pretty strongly in some of those issues, to the point where it's clear that the art style is not his own and is mostly the art style of whoever it was doing them. In the case of Steve Leialoha, it's because he was doing most of the finished art based on breakdowns. And in the case of some of those other issues, it's because an uncredited artist was actually drawing and Chaykin was getting credit. And I keep saying that, so I'll probably find something that we can read to back that up, because I don't want to just drop that. But that's not the focus of the show, so we haven't really stopped to cite that. but I'm not just making that up. Like that's a known thing that happened. But in whatever way we can defend this dude, that's about as much as I can offer. Like writing a scathing letter to people either way is still not. I wouldn't write a letter to someone saying, "Well, your art's crap," because I like Star Wars. Number 3, George Lucas spells Wookiee with 2 E's. 2 E's. What? Not one. And it's everything else besides Marvel Comics, including program booklets issued by the Star Wars Corporation itself, which is wrong there. That may change in the future just to keep everything consistent, but in the meantime, Roy prefers to spell Chewbacca's generic name the way that his creator does. He just wishes everyone else would shape up. Yeah, that's a good one. It's like, we love it when people say that, because you're wrong.
I think it's weird that the spelling of Wookiee was such a controversy back then.
Yeah, it's so weird. And I'm pretty sure it was spelled correctly in the novelization. I could be wrong there. We could double check that, but I don't think anybody says. Well,
there are different printings of that. Maybe the first one didn't. I don't know.
Well,
maybe they fixed it.
I got it.
I'll do it.
Yeah, you don't scare me. You think I don't have the first printing of that? Number 4. We'll sell this right now. Far from simply betting out the Star Wars comic, as you suggest, batting out, I guess. Sorry, the print's pretty rough here. Far from simply batting out the Star Wars comic, as you suggest, Roy spent, as did Howie, long hours for no pay at the Lucasfilm offices on the Universal movie lot,
hanging out with their friend George,
and sometimes with Mark Hamill, and with media projects director Charles Lippincott, who actually just recently died of complications from COVID.
Oh, why do you always do that in the middle of our shows?
I know, I'm not doing it.
And you always bring it up. It's like, oh, by the way, that guy died.
Well, he had his. I follow his Facebook, but it is sad because he posted a lot of stuff. He was one of the original architects of the way that Star Wars came to be, especially from a marketing and merchandising perspective.
That's very sad.
So it was really sad.
I'm sorry to hear that. Go ahead.
Meeting with Lucas and Charles Lippincott about the way the series should be handled. He spent more hours with them, as well as the movie star Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford now. Harrison Ford too. Since then, getting all the feedback he can on how things should go in the future stories. Since both movie and paperback sequels are projected, and George naturally wishes to keep them all consistent, this is a far more complicated project even than writing or editing books like Conan or Tarzan, let alone other comic mags. Here's where they bring it down. Don, baby, believe us when we tell you that we haven't printed and rebutted your letter in full to belittle you. However, you are wrong.
Yeah. However, give me a minute to belittle you.
Yeah, you obviously suck. Perhaps a lesson can be learned here by you and others who are too quick to criticize when you don't even begin to understand the situation. Namely, Roy and Howie, like the rest of Marvel's writers and artists, are working professionals who labor within a prescribed set of guidelines, trying to turn out a product which is both pleasing to them and saleable for the publisher. That the Star Wars comic was selling well and being enthusiastically received even before the movie came out, at a time when there had been virtually no publicity whatever about the film, shows that they may just know what they're doing. Give them a break, huh? They're smarter than you give them credit. I thought that said they're smarter than you at first.
Yeah,
they're
period.
Smarter than you. So shut your stupid mouth.
It's there. It's just, you can read it that way.
Yeah,
I mean, the words are there.
Star Wars creator says smarter than you. They're smarter than you give them credit for. And in the long run, you may just make yourself look foolish. Nobody gains from that, not even us. And now, because we've just room left for a random sampling of the overwhelmingly favorable response to our Star Wars mag so far, here's a few you can read.
Move over, Howard and Is this Howard the Duck?
Howard was a big deal back in those days. That was a huge book. when that comic
Really?
first came out. Yes.
Like Spider-Man big? Move over, Howard and Spidey. Star Wars is here. This guy actually typed that one sentence, folded it up, put it in an envelope.
Put a stamp. He paid
put
30
a stamp
cents
on it
to say that.
and send it 1 cent. And same with all these guys. Star Wars #4 was superb in every sense of the word. The comic adaptation. Why did I say?
Some people say adaptation. I think it's weird. I keep saying it. I think it's a real word too, but I've always found it weird.
The comic adaptation is a cultural experience, Marvel. You're beautiful.
You're beautiful.
I don't get it. It's a cultural experience. Marvel, you're beautiful. All right. I'll take it. Star Wars should get an annual next summer. Like we just got this is like issue 8, man. Give us a minute.
I'm gonna rip on the Star Wars guys just a little bit here and surmise, this is just an opinion, that these are not full letters that they printed, that they deliberately took snippets of letters so that they could just shoot out like 4 raves for the book to offset this one.
There's only one way to find out. We're going to have to contact Bert Glass, Albert Franklin, Steve Pipe, and Richard
J. Bukowski at Elmwood Court.
I need the full unedited version of your letter. I think we're on to something.
Yeah, I'm trying to prove a point to my fellow podcaster.
We'll call it Star Wars Gate.
We'll call it Don Gate.
Did Star Wars the comic, I don't think, had annuals.
It did. But it did? Its first annual, I think it only had 3.
Oh, that's weird. I've never seen those.
The first annual, because I did try to imagine when we should break into the annuals, but the first annual wasn't published until mid-1979. So okay. I want to say they were well into the 20s before.
So we'll get to it, I guess, in the order that it was released.
Yeah,
we'll try that.
I also want to say that was another one that was written by Chris Claremont and made some weird assumptions about Luke's dad. So there's some fun stuff in that first annual.
Oh, okay. It's so weird to me that I don't remember there being annuals at all. Annuals were a weird thing. I don't even know if they do them anymore. They probably do, but
they do, because it's just a way to shove out another book to sell.
But they were always weird because they didn't follow the continuity so much. They are always like their own story, and sometimes with different teams doing it, and
they're skippable for that reason. I think that's probably why some annuals might be valuable, because you might not care about an annual because it doesn't factor into the overall storyline.
I have found that most annuals are less valuable than the regular issues.
The reason for that too is probably because a lot of, like, Marvel and DC are real bad for this, but they'll use annuals as an excuse to do tie-ins to whatever event is going on across their universe, which means the annuals are tied to an overall story that links to other series, and you're like, oh, never mind, Jesus Christ, who wants to follow that crap? And they're usually not good. Like back in the days of like Crisis on Infinite Earths, like there was an event that mattered, and now it's just every year, like, DC's super bad about doing like massive events. Like they happen. It seems like they happen more than once a year, and big crossovers, and you just get sick of it. Like I got sick of collecting DC books just because they were so bad about trying to do crossovers into other series all the time.
Yeah, I guess that's how and Marvel was no better in the days. Back in the day, they had them all the time too.
Mm-hmm. A standalone crossover is fine. I just don't like these crossovers that get continued into the other characters series, and you're supposed to buy a couple issues of that other character's series.
Well, that's what I mean. Like they did that all the time with the mutant books, especially. You know, you'd have to pick up X-Men, New Mutants, X-Factor, all these things at the same time just to get the story.
I get tired of that. I used to, when they relaunched Justice League Dark, I tried it again, even though I think Justice League Dark is a stupid idea. But they had characters like Blue Devil and the Detective Chimp as part of it. Now, that's kind of fun. But because they wanted to have a mainliner, the first time they launched Justice League Dark, they wanted their mainliner to be Batman, so they'd like coordinate with Batman. And that didn't really work. So the second time they launched it, Wonder Woman was like she's kind of magical, right? Whatever, close enough. And so she was the liaison. And it wasn't like, I mean, I want to say there were 2 issues of Justice League Dark, and then I was reading Justice League Dark number 3, and it was like, as continued from the story in Wonder Woman number whatever. It's like, nothing at the end of the last issue said that it was carrying over into a story in a different book. I was just reading this, and now I'm finding out that from the second I opened the book, I'm behind, and I'm supposed to go buy some other book to find out what prelude to this issue was.
Usually they'll say, even on the cover, it'll be like part 1 of blah, blah, blah.
It's so annoying. Like, and even if it did, like, that's not giving me any time. From an editorial perspective, you should let people know. It was like they were assuming that people already weren't reading Justice League Dark, so they just kicked off a story in a more popular book to get people on board. And I'm like, forget it. Never mind. I don't really care what your new Swamp Thing is doing anyway.
It's starting to sound like Don.
Yeah, let me just first say, Swamp Thing wouldn't grow his hair that way. All right?
Hair. Swamp Thing has hair.
He has weird dread look. Like, everyone was laughing about it when the Justice League Dark came out, because Swamp Thing just sort of looked like Alan Moore, because Alan Moore has like that long wizard hair now and like a long beard, and they did that with the Swamp Thing. And I actually don't mind that look, but I just don't think Swamp Thing works in a team book very well. I liked the other concepts better. Like I said, I'd much rather see a story that follows Detective Chimp in an earnest sense and Blue Devil. And they just didn't have a handle on that. They certainly didn't have enough of a handle to try to rope me into buying issues of Wonder Woman or whatever other book they were trying to tie it into.
Well, let me tell you what your problem is. You didn't write a letter.
Yeah.
If you had written a long, detailed letter telling them this stuff, then they would know that's what you want, and they would respond.
Let's have no more of this. That's what I was right.
Addendum.
Yeah. As these words are penned, the first several issues of Star Wars have become a comic book phenomenon. Not only are second editions of the first several issues identified clearly by the word reprint on the cover, not always, sometimes, as we have said in our show and tell. Yeah. They are at this point of this writing, I'm sure. But yeah, they probably got in a little hot water when they started doing those reissues, and people noticed that they looked exactly like first prints. But that's funny. But now they are identified with the word reprint. They're going on sale, and not only is the second Star Wars treasury hitting the newsstands, but Ballantine Books has combined the first 6 issues of the comic book into a special paperback size edition on sale even as we speak.
Included with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, for real. It's hilariously tiny. And it's black and white. Between these 3 editions and the original comic book edition, more than 2 million copies of Roy and Howie's Star Wars adaptation have seen print, and the lads, as well as Marvel, couldn't be more delighted.
So that was a big print run at that time, I guess.
Millions?
Right?
Yeah, there are not millions of comic book fans probably now in terms of regular comic book collectors.
A big print run now is like 300,000. I mean, that's like a huge print run now.
Yeah.
That's sad to say.
That's why you know that there's something up when you see, like, when that X-Men had that number 1 and it sold like 5 million copies. And you're like, people are buying this because they think it's going to be
million of those.
Like, not 8 million comic book readers. So that's why it's worthless.
It's funny because the truth is there are 8 million of them, and like what? Couple 100,000 comic book people.
Yeah.
And so divide that by 8 million. Divide 8 million by that. That's how many copies everyone has.
Every comic book collector has 3 copies of that because
when that thing came out, I bought one of each cover. And since then, through just picking up, like, I'll see on Facebook Marketplace, like, box of comics for $10, and I'll say, okay, I'll take it. And so I've accumulated like 20 copies of that stupid thing.
I had it. I mean, I don't think I have it anymore, but I had it. I used to read that book.
Maybe show and tell one of these. I'll just bring out all my copies.
Show like 10 ridiculous
copies.
It is. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It is funny.
But anyways, so Star Wars #1 had a huge print run if you count all these other editions. And I do believe the reprints are heavily printed because I see those all the time. But finding the original first print, I mean, if you look on eBay, there's probably at least a few listed at any given moment, but they're not. It's not like they're spilling out of the closets or anything.
Let's see. I guess we could probably I'll skip to this. Let's see. I got a couple of ads, but they don't come from these issues yet. We could wait, but we talked about the Star Wars fan club. Let's show you. I think this is it. This ad actually comes out of issue 11, but let's take a look at it. Well, just to give you an idea of, like, we were talking briefly about the Star Wars fan club and when that got started. This is not from the issue that we're looking at here. I think this comes out of issue number 11, but this is an ad for I keep saying Lucasfilm because that's what it was called before, but at this point it's just the straight up official Star Wars fan club. And so this is at least one of the earliest, if not the earliest, ad for that. And it is a nice little image. You don't see photos in ads very much because, as you can see, they sort of have that newsprinty kind of text.
Yeah, they don't look that great.
Yeah.
Let me go on a side real quick. It's funny that you mentioned that because one of the things I've been wanting to talk about, I'm on a Facebook group like Vintage Star Wars Collectors Archive or some crap, but they're always showing ads from newspapers and Sears catalogs and stuff for toys. And they're always drawn. Oh yeah, I should. And I should but I want to look at some of those in some episode. It's just interesting because they always draw the toys. I was like, why don't you just
I may
show
have
the
a couple of those, but it's funny. It's for the same reason, because you see, the quality just wasn't there. They did it here, and from a vintage perspective, it's fun to see it that way, but they don't look good.
It's weird that they can't make it look good. I mean, you can print newspapers, print photos better than this.
Well, anyway. I think these guys were probably lower grade. This was the challenge of comic book artists and colorists of the time. Like when we're talking about how the colors are so bright on the digital versions, part of that is because I think they're using the grading that was suggested by the colorists at the time, but it wasn't suggested for that print process. It was suggested with the idea that it was going to get really muted down because of the quality of the printing. Like this yellow was probably a much poppier yellow that they had, just like the red, but they got because of the nature
over time too. I'm sure.
Well, that's true too. Like this print wasn't as yellow.
I like how R2's on there talking.
Bleeds with playing a fliss bloop.
And they're actually using like a weird computer font for him. That's fun.
Robot dog.
What's the asterisk there for?
It translates down here to, "Hey kids, be the first on your planet."
Oh, that's what R2's saying.
That's translated.
I didn't see the asterisk on his. I guess is that a star or an asterisk up there?
It's an asterisk. It doesn't matter. It's just another print issue.
Okay.
Be the first on your planet to join the most exciting fan club in the history of the galaxy, the official Star Wars fan club.
That's a bold claim.
Headquartered on the fourth moon of Yavin, only one half land sector from the main rebel base, the SWFC has just opened a terrestrial chapter. Well, Yavin's terrestrial. As a citizen of the planet Earth, you can become a charter member. The SWFC is the only fan club that's really out of this world. Actually, that's just a figure of speech. We realize how difficult interplanetary travel is for you Earthlings.
They're really going like full in on this.
We commit.
This Earth thing.
As a member, you'll receive advanced info about Star Wars events. You'll be invited to attend Star Wars conventions now being planned. Your $5 membership fee also brings you the following items designed exclusively for the SWFC. A 20x28 color poster, heat transfer for a t-shirt, embroidered jacket patch, self-stick color decal, Star Wars book cover, newsletter, membership card, 8x10 color photo, wallet-sized photo. Doesn't say. Just me, your announcer. Tasteful pics that you'll probably enjoy. We look forward to welcoming you to the official Star Wars fan club, and may the Force be with you.
Please enroll me as a charter member of the blah, blah, blah. $5. I guess at that time, let's think, the comic cost 30 cents.
Yeah, for a kid, $5 was a big investment, which is why most of us were never members of the Star Wars fan club.
15 comics.
Yeah, that was like a big part of your allowance.
And nowadays, a comic is $4, so that's like $50, you know.
Because I remember bouncing this kind of stuff off my parents, and they'd be like, "Oh, you get a sticker." Like, that's true. I wouldn't read that newsletter.
Well, you get a poster.
Yeah, all that stuff.
to see what that poster was and if it really was exclusive.
I'd like to see the membership card.
If that's the only place you could ever have gotten it.
We should do a Google image search. I'd like to see what the membership card looked like.
Are you unable to go to these conventions unless you're a member of the fan club?
I'm sure not. It just says that it'll give you advance notice that they're happening. I mean, it says you'll be invited, but I don't think that's an exclusive invite. I think all it's saying is you'll be on our mailing list.
Oh my God. They actually have planet down at the bottom of that thing. Oh, guys.
With the assumption that's Earth because of how small it is.
And some poor kids like down there scribbling out Earth, right? How that's fun though.
I guess
it's fun. And they actually, I guess they put that in an envelope because that flimsy piece of paper.
Well, of course they do. Yeah, it's not a postcard.
Please do not send cash.
Yeah, check or money order. That's why you had to go through your parents.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that jacket patch. What's that about?
Yeah, man. That's back in the day when you could wear jacket patches to your conventions. Of course, you can do that now. But back then you got made fun of. So it was different.
Not at the conventions, but
well, no.
But in other circles. You were rolling the dice in other circles.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, that is fun. That's neat. And that was your entry point to Bantha Tracks. Like I said, I never got that, but a lot of the stuff from that back in those days when you're like, how did people think that? It's like usually came from stuff like these newsletters, like some of this lore that you just heard third hand from somebody. You didn't know where it came from. Usually originated in sources like that. So it'd be fun for us to take a look at this at some point.
It's such an interesting time. So different than our days now when there's so many ways for Lucasfilm or whoever, Disney, to get information out there to people. You know, back then it was just so primitive.
What's funny is
they actually had to mail you a newsletter.
You still can. It's fancier. Like you're a member of the fan club if you subscribe to Star Wars Insider. It's fancier newsletter, but it's still out there.
But
I would like to still. It's a good reference.
There's a lot of sources of information now, whereas back then, if you wanted to know more about Star Wars, you had
to get that inside track.
Yeah, there's a novelization, there's the comic, and then there's this, and that's about it. That's kind of neat.
That's what I like about it. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff going on for that.
So let us know what you guys think. Do you agree with Don? Do you think that we're being too mean to pick on Don?
Yeah. Are we
you
too
Don?
Rough on Howard Chuck? Yeah. Are you out there? Still mad?
I apologize. If you're one of our watchers, I apologize.
It's not how Wookiee's spelled. Hey, man, you made your bed. If it makes you feel better, I'll dig up the letter that I wrote to the Nightmare on Elm Street comic and we'll read it.
Yeah.
But it was favorable. It's probably embarrassing. I can't imagine what I had to talk about.
Or why you felt it was so interesting that you
with suggestions for future storylines, like maybe you should try this. Like, come on, dude, this 6 issues is probably all we're ever gonna have.
That does sound interesting. I would love to see that. So dig that up for us.
I'll find it. I may have. I've been rebuying those issues. I may have the issue at this point, but I may not have rebought it yet. I have to start looking through them and see. But there it is. Fun stuff. It's fun to have that interaction. It's super fun for me to see those interactions. Like not necessarily with negative fans, but just to see what people were talking about and what they were interested in and how they interpreted the lore. Like I don't want to say it was toxic back then, but it is fun to say like people think that with the internet that there just came this negativity in the comments section automatically, and there was still an outlet for that kind of discourse even back then. But for the most part, people were
there's always been trolls, man. That's just the way it is.
And for the most part, even if they're not trolls, you're gonna have your fan that's just a little too enthusiastic in the way that they feel like it should be interpreted. And I don't know, that's a reminder to dial it back a little bit.
The only difference now is you don't have to spend 30 cents on a stamp. Stamps didn't cost 30 cents back then. That's what a comic cost. It probably cost 5 cents or something. I don't know. Anywho, Thanks for watching.
There it is. Yeah, hope you
Leave a
enjoyed it.
comment. You want to know what our Star words are? Our letters? It's comments on these YouTube videos. So feel free to give us some. Tear into us like Dawn. I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd actually.
And we'll give you a
I wouldn't
5-point
enjoy
response.
it so much.
First of all, number one, I had lunch with
Brooks
Harrison Ford.
is not ugly.
Did you have lunch with Harrison Ford? No, you did not. Number two, that is my favorite thing to throw in someone's face. Have you ever met Mr. Mark Hamill?
I like a little mister.
Yeah. So
Have you met Sir Alec Guinness?
Yeah. You ever been kicked in the face with a metal boot?
Ever seen a man eat his own head? No. Then you haven't seen everything.
So there you go. So yeah, reach back to us. Like, check out Marvel Age Star Wars, our other shows that cover the comic proper, and also we do some Mandalorian reviews on this channel. We also sometimes just do a show and tell where we show you some of our silly stuff that we talk about. And also go to the TV Ate My Dinner YouTube channel, where we have other entertainment themed videos that are not Star Wars related. And you can go to tvatemydinner.com as a jumping off point for all of that entertainment material. So check that out, and follow us on Facebook, TV Ate My Dinner, and Expanding Universe is our Star Wars related Facebook. So there you go. We got all that for you. Or you can just come right here to the Marvel Age Star Wars YouTube channel and discourse with us here.
Yes, please leave a comment.
Always
write us a letter.
To see you.
I'll come up with a P.O. box if you prefer that way.
Yeah, send us emails to starwords1977@gmail.com.
Oh, that's right.
If you
we
like
have
sending
one.
email. We created it for
we
fun,
made that.
but it's there. So if you would like to email us, that's another means that we have for some reason. If you're like, yeah, YouTube won't let me send pictures. Like, you got to rethink this email.
Have we checked that email? I forgot we had it. Yeah. Okay.
I had to use it the other day to send
a
video file because the drive for our normal account was full. But that's
what we get for being cheapskates. Okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon. My name's Brooks.
I'm Sean.
See you later. Bye-bye. I can never find my hands. Bye-bye.
Snoop.